Let's start with the rapid fire round. The first one is, at what age do you want to retire?
Hopefully as late as it gets. So I don't know, 70, 80, maybe 90.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
Half an hour maybe?
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Favorite color?
Green.
What time of day are you most inspired?
In the morning.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
On average, I need 6.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming technology trend is blank.
Well, artificial intelligence.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Well, my hometown, of course.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk.
Neither.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Well, I'm very happy in my career, actually.
How do you relax?
Running.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
On average, 5-ish or so.
A habit of yours that you hate.
Well, when I'm nervous, I'm playing around with my fingers.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Enjoying to work with human beings.
Your favorite Netflix show.
I don't watch Netflix.
Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Rather early.
One word description of your leadership style.
Very trustful.
Top priority in your daily schedule.
Communication with my people.
Ideal vacation spot.
Ooh, it's more about with whom / my family rather than where.
Key factor for maintaining a work-life balance.
Stitching it together. It's more a blending than a balance.
Memorable career milestone.
Having founded Flix.
A recent business innovation that caught your attention.
Essentially, that comes back to large language models, so /AI.
The last song you've been listening to.
Oh my God. I don't know. It was today in the morning in the cab. I don't know.
The follow-up question is, can you hum it for us?
No, not really. And if so, you wouldn't want to.
Okay, the last movie that you saw that had a good impression on you?
The last movie I saw was the Paw Patrol movie together with my son.
All right, well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. Let's go on to the larger question, which you can answer with as much ease, as much time, as much thought as you like. The first one is, can you share a bit about your journey from your time at Hochschule an der to founding, did I pronounce it right? No, that's fine. To founding FlixBus and your current role as founder-in-chief organizational flounder.
Yeah, sure thing. So basically in Ansbach was the University of Applied Science I studied first at. The reason I choose that, which is close to my hometown, is because I worked more for Siemens back in the days than I actually studied. The reason is because creating something tangible always drove me. And after having finished the studies, then took on a couple of journeys, including, a step in the US. I came back to Munich, where I rejoined with Andre, one of my 2 co-founders. And basically, we know each other for more than 30 years. And we started talking around how kind of almost ridiculous the golden hamster wheel for strategy consultants at BCG, what he did back then, or at Microsoft for a tech consultant, what I did was. And we thought, hey, maybe we can do better. And that started where we really went through a bunch of ideas, bunch of problems and improvement thoughts. And at some point in time, we ended up with Flix, basically because of the news. We read in the news that the former government in Germany wanted to deregulate the German long-distance coach market. And we took that bet. We 3 of us co-founded Flix, and essentially it became true. The market opened up, And we started with our partnership model, with bringing our mid-size bus partners together on a very tech-driven platform, and therefore, started the core of what meanwhile is around in 42 countries. And, the reason why I'm still heading technology, product, and people, making me the chief organizational plumber, is obviously the studies back at the University of Applied Science, which was business information systems. So I'm a bit of a techie at heart, but essentially what I love doing is organizational building, working with people. And, that means you basically plumb all the obstacles and everything which kind of like are in the way of the Flixies to do great stuff, to deliver great customer value. And I think that's not only true for me, I just made it explicit with that funny term. It's true for every leader. As a leader, you really take care about whatever can't be solved by the people. And that means on a daily basis, you have to plumb quite a bit to keep the machine running.
So what are the key pivotal plumbing moments that have tested your resolve in your time at FlixBus?
So first, you really tend to work with, bunch of interns and juniors, not only because they're cheap, but also because you get them quickly. But apparently it's hard that they take full accountability because they have barely as much experience as you have yourself. So I'd rather really look for a more experienced leader and quicker, if I do it a second time, hire, experience in general. Because if you do that and you hire particularly people for certain tasks which are better than yourself, it's way easier to start delegating properly. And delegating is one of the key elements I'd mention. If you then flip the coin towards technology, I think in the beginning we were a bit hesitant to take proper invest. So it took us too long to build up our internal tech team. We rather relied on external resources. And, for all the core services of each business, you better do it yourself and do not rely on externals. And, we had to clean up afterwards. So these were two, large learnings which I had to plumb afterwards.
So FlixBus has been a pioneer in green mobility. What inspired you to focus on making travel more sustainable? Was it in the government thing as well? And what challenges did you face in implementing this vision?
The truth is, initially, we wanted to really bring smart and green mobility, so sustainable and affordable mobility to all people. Because we thought, individual traffic is expensive. Some other alternatives like governmental train services are expensive. So that was what drove us. And, very quickly after, there were studies from the German government that per head per passenger, the carbon dioxide footprint is even better with buses than it used to be with trains. And we were a bit surprised back then, but we took that. And obviously, Flix is very good in bringing economical sense and ecological sense together. Obviously, we need a high load factor. So many people on our buses to really are successful from a commercial point of view in an economical sense. But that also leads to many people sharing the same mode of transportation, which reduces, obviously, the carbon footprint per head. And essentially, when that turned out to be true and we realized, we kind of tried to really just scale that. And with the scale, obviously, the responsibility grows. And that means we obviously not only do what we did good in the past with the most modern combustion engines, but we also started with our ESG report to really think about how in the next 10 to 15 years, we can convert in Europe our fleet to even a more sustainable EV-powered kind of thing, because we believe this is what is important. And as a good member of the transportation community and a successful company, we have to take that responsibility.
So what do you think about all the flight cuts that different European nations are implementing for the green buckets?
I believe if the infrastructure is there, and I think France is a good example, if you have a high-speed train or a certain bus connection which is reliable and in a good shape, then obviously it doesn't make sense to have short-haul flights. So I believe we will see what France implemented already across different other European nations over the next couple of years, and we are very supportive not only with FlixBus, but in that high-speed sector, essentially also with FlixTrain.
So speaking of all this innovation, as a founder of Flix, you're deeply involved in the intersection of technology and mobility. How do you see technology shaping the future of transportation itself, especially in the context of FlixBus?
We have mentioned briefly, and it's all across and around Web Summit, artificial intelligence. And they're kind of different things. There's NLP and large language models, and there's machine learning, which we do already to optimize our network planning. But if you look at that particular intersection, I believe autonomous driving will play a key role. And we won't wait until level 5 is there. But there are intermediary solutions like remote controlled driving supported by artificial intelligence, which really can help us to increase the service level to our customers and eventually ease the lives of our drivers. We must not forget this is one of the super responsible jobs we've offered out there, not only for the bus drivers, but also, for the train chiefs. And that, together with AI, can improve, and that will lead to eventually becoming a more attractive job in the future. Because, there is no magic. We have driver shortages, and it is a scarce resource and became more challenging over COVID. We try to fight against that, offering an attractive job itself. But I believe with these kind of technologies, eventually, getting up at home, having a coffee with your family and doing a remote control, bus stop to highway session, and then eventually on the highway, even at some point, which is a contained system, it can be fully remote and fully autonomous, and then another driver can pick it up, and you don't have to always sleep out of home and things like that, which eventually really will upgrade the job quite a bit, and hopefully leads to attract more future bus drivers and train chiefs.
Are there any issues around safety that have been raised in this instance?
Well, I believe you have to always put safety first. We're a transportation company and we move people from A to B. And we do that not only sustainable and affordable, but obviously safety first. That means you can try out these technologies, without customers yet in a contained system. But before it has been rolled out, there's a regulatory and there's safety, which have to be compliant 100% before you really move customers or even put drivers at risk.
So being the chief organizational plumber still sounds very intriguing. Can you share a lesson learned from a leadership decision that didn't go as planned? And how did you adjust your approach to improve future plumbing strategies?
So basically, if I remember the leadership decisions which didn't go as planned, it's mainly about two things. A, I didn't hear to my gut feeling and to, my personal experience which I couldn't clearly express, but it was rather gut feeling. Or I didn't involve our people enough. So I thought I'm smarter than the rest and just took the decision based on the role. And both of these decisions led to, more plumbing effort, so to say. On the other hand, if you take an example where I took a risk in a leadership decision and even had a large reorganization at FlixTech, and asked the people how they would reorganize and really gave them the autonomy and just adjusted a bit here and there, well, basically that worked much better. And we didn't have not invented here syndromes or people trying to really stick, and not being able to let loose. And also accountability and business continuity worked way smarter. So I believe whenever I took rather joint decisions, being fully aware that the final accountability is on me based on my role, were always better than I thought I was smarter than the rest for whatever reason or decided against my gut.
So speaking of delegating power and responsibility, how many people report to you and how many people report to them?
That it depends always. Sometimes you have to fill the gaps. Currently, I'd say there are 14 or so reporting directly to me and the entire organization I'm in charge of, which is FlixTech on the one hand, and our people team on the other hand is about 550.
Okay. So what does your typical day look like?
So after half an hour to, take a shower and have the first coffee, usually during the day I have quite some meetings. It's a mixture of, one-to-ones to really make sure, I understand the individual problems and support resolving them, but also talking to my people and how I can support them growing. On the one hand, on the other hand, there's kind of group meetings where we have sure fixes to take, joint decisions. That's from the management board and C-level perspective, down to individual group sessions where we tackle individual topics. And that's mainly what it is. Sometimes due to the management board role, it's also like interviews and stuff as we do it today. And later the day, so to say, I do kind of my homework. I just take care about my inbox. I read presentations and I comment slides and these kind of things. And that's kind of like the after hour work. And during the week, where I'm basically most of the time out of home, so, being around somewhere, like here in Lisbon, I barely do anything else beside having dinner and work. And that's a good thing. I still enjoy it very much.
So your book, excuse my German, Mission Zukunftsrepublik, focuses on the future of work. Yeah. Can you share some key insights on your vision for an agile, inclusive, and humane working environment?
So we must not forget that in the 21st century, different than the 19th and 20th century, it's not about, humans doing repetitive tasks. And it's also not about, some of the fear and the uncertainty about, again, artificial intelligence kind of stealing our jobs. I believe, the brain, which powers, our society to keep on doing better things, innovation, all that stuff, remains human. And that means we have to focus on the human factor. And I believe that this means mentioning and focusing and really putting the human being much more in the middle of doing, and not only the output, but the outcome. That's something which in the future is really much more important and became even more present after COVID, when it didn't matter so much where we are working, but how we work. We had to work from home here and there. But essentially, it's also not only about working remote, but bringing people together, because the topics we as human beings have to solve are very complex, as our society is complex. So, recentering the human being around the acting of doing business is something which I believe the 21st century only has started with, and it's also being pointed out in the book Zukunftsrepublik. So, Republic of the Future, basically, it's the English term.
So in your interaction with the readers of this book, have there been any unexpected perspectives or stories that challenged your own views regarding work?
Well, that's always the case, because we must not forget that, there are individual small societies like the organization of a company like Flix. There are larger societies like a nation, a country, and then there's Europe, and then there's the world. And we have biases, we have been socialized differently. So there's a bunch of different views. And to really have open and honest discussions about that without any hate or violence, just to make sure what we want to do, to develop our society further and to protect the planet, that's very controversial. And therefore, there were many interactions because many different people have read the book. And I always try to get the feedback, think about that, and then eventually start a discussion with hopefully a good outcome for all of us.
Speaking of hate and violence, FlixBus, under your leadership, has taken a strong stand against anti-Semitism. How do you see the role of companies in addressing social issues, and what motivated FlixBus to take this clear stance?
In general, Flix is not a political company. We're a company, we're here to provide good services to our customers. But sometimes, unfortunately, things happen which are, so much not to be imagined, whether it's the war in Ukraine, there is some, nature catastrophes, or there was a terror attack of the Hamas, where I believe you have to clearly voice your point of view. And particularly as a German company, obviously we have a responsibility, and we're against any way of anti-Semitism, but hate and bad things in general. And therefore we had to take that stand as a German company. And on top of that, we clearly repeat that, as I said, any hate, any violence, anything independent of the background, the color, the nation, religion, we are against. We believe, only jointly, in a good sense, humanity can really progress, and that's something we support as a company. And I believe our purpose is very much clearly, stating that, and that was one of the reasons we were also crystal clear on the terror attack of the Hamas.
How do you approach conversations with team members who may hold diverse opinions on such controversial issues? And how do you foster a culture of open dialogue within FlixBus then?
Very good question. So we had that a couple of times already, whether, we have a bunch of people. We have obviously Ukrainian people and we have Russian people. And we have, Muslim people and we have Jewish people. And we want to have that very colorful environment. Also independent of, if you're just, what kind of letter of LGBTQI plus you think your own is, you sit together and just discuss openly. And we are always receiving the feedback. We're taking that into our all hands. We try to reflect on that. And being very open and humble is the key on these discussions. And, the culture we've created at Flix is independent of your sexuality, of your religion, and of your passport. And I'm very proud that I'm saying all of our Flix people really signed up for that, and therefore we can have these discussions.
Okay, so let's move back to regulatory tech now. How do you navigate regulatory challenges within the European Union while fostering a culture of innovation in your tech team?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you took Europe as the example. Germany could have been even worse. Well, it's an ongoing discussion. There is legacy, and there were reasons in the past why regulators took certain decisions. And obviously, regulatory is there to protect all of us. And protection sometimes means you're a little bit slow in, encountering new things. And also there we take the stand of open discussions, being very transparent and not hiding things. And we start individual discussions with municipalities, with countries also on European level. And I have to admit, the EU in that sense, even though sometimes it's really been bad touched in the news, in that sense is very helpful to make sure we can foster deregulation in a certain sense, if especially it provides better and additional services to our customers, to all of us. And, that means just repeating the message, proving your point of view and that there is actual value towards the customers. And then it takes time.
So is there any specific instance where regulatory constraint posed a significant hurdle for technological innovation in FlixBus or any kind of innovation?
Well, yes and no. I believe we fortunately never had a real burden. For instance, if we talk about artificial intelligence, we started years ago mainly around machine learning, and therefore it was totally, mathematical anonymous data. So I don't have any problem with any AI acts there. We were happy because we were born because of deregulation. I believe, if you look at the German train market, I believe, making the train infrastructure a bit more independent, eventually carving it out of the governmental owned player would make more sense and speed up things in the railway market in Germany, and therefore also support Flix Train, particularly the customers with a better offer and cheaper prices eventually. But outside of that, we were always lucky to having found a way to really put innovation in place and making good things towards our customers.
All right, so the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm happy to not have answered that directly because I keep on doing that as long as the company needs me and I believe I can bring value and plumb some things. I guess, as a child, like my little son, by the way, I wanted to become a pilot. And then I really for some time didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I think I couldn't back then really listen to my gut and explicitly state that entrepreneurship is what I really enjoy and therefore I love what I'm doing.